Grüß, willkommen in einem Aufregens video. Welcome to yet another video. In this case, episode 10 of my Star Trek, the original series, Speculation series of videos. In this video, I'll attempt to determine if the Federation had an intelligence organization that was actually operating during the world or the period of the original series, such as the intelligence organization described in later Star Trek series, Deep Space Nine and Enterprise, which is called Section 31. This video will be really based on the absolute bare, thin level of evidence that you could ever possibly imagine, and really will be primarily a speculative-based video, but nonetheless, speculation based on some evidence in the original series script. But let's go through our original series script to see what references there are to secret intelligence organizations. The first one comes from the episode Elan of Troyes, where we discover the Enterprise is on a top-secret diplomatic mission. There are no intelligence organizations described in this episode, but we do know the Federation does have secret missions, in this case diplomatic. This type of mission could even be classed as covert action, interfering in the politics of another race, even if some parts of that other race requested it. While no specific organization is mentioned, there must be an organization of some description which arranged and planned this. As this mission required a starship, the Enterprise got roped into the mission. But all the prior intelligence, planning and threat assessment and how to deal with those threats were conducted elsewhere, and it must have been conducted by some form of specialist organisation which is never named. In the episode The Enterprise Incident, Kirk is given a secret mission in order to obtain military information about a new Romulan weapon. In this case, this is a military top-secret mission, one which only Kirk and probably Spock was made aware of. Once again, there must be a Federation military intelligence organization, never named, which identified that there was a new weapon and arranged for the mission, this mission that we see in the episode, to retrieve information about the weapon. This would have involved intelligence gathering, perhaps spies in Romulan space, and you need an organisation that's well funded and controlled by the Federation in order to initiate that or to run it. This mission, or the actual mission, needed a starship and a captain, so there was no need for any specific agents. But there must be military intelligence agents in the Federation if there's an organisation which collects information, particularly if they're collecting that information from an enemy nation such as the Romulans. You need people to do it. You need to have those people well funded, organised and controlled by some political organisation. Now I'm really scraping the barrel. In The Errand of Mercy, Uhura states, Unit XY 75847 reports a fleet of Klingon ships in their sector. Unit XY 75847 could probably refer to a device or a base which is monitoring space. Or it could indicate an organisation in the Federation which, through some method, worked out there was a fleet in a specific sector. This is a real long shot, and I prefer to believe this unit is a device or a base that just happens to be observing space and not the name of a specific organisation. But I must admit, calling your organisation Unit XY75847 would be a good way of hiding it from enemy intelligence organisations. It is such a ludicrous name. Now let's move to the episode The Menagerie. While in this particular case the orders ended up being faked, they were created by Spock, the Enterprise receives fully scrambled orders which are top secret. This would indicate the concept of top secret military orders is not unknown. I mean, it does happen. And there must have been top secret, when we have top secret anything, orders or whatever, there has to be an organisation which created those top secret orders based on top secret intelligence gathering, and someone had to decide what to do in order, or what sort of covert action in order to do something about those top secret orders. So there must be something out there. In this case, it could have been a military organisation, but it could very well be our mysterious Section 31. In the episode of Private Little War, the Enterprise supplies one side on the planet with flintlocks. This is the type of activity an intelligence organisation would perform: find allies and supply them with weapons, that is, friendly allies. Kirk does not like doing this, but as part of the Cold War with the Klingons, he does so regardless. Once again, in this case, the Enterprise is at a planet and is in the best position to supply weapons, so that's why we get Kirk doing it. However, Kirk must have been authorised by the Federation in some way, shape or form in order to supply weapons to an alien race. If there were not so many military vessels flying around, there were Klingons running around, we probably would have had an intelligence organisation performing this task. But as it turned out, the Enterprise was once again in the best position to basically perform what I would consider as a covert operation, supplying weapons to allies. This is all about all I could find in the scripts of the original series and the animated series. I mean, there were several other cases where I could have really stretched my bow in order to basically say that this may imply that there is an intelligence organisation. Nonetheless, the evidence that I provided does indicate sufficient for me to believe there are Federation intelligence organisation. Now, the conclusion, even from this very minimal list of evidence or facts in the TOS script, is that we see evidence of a diplomatic secret organisation and a military secret organisation. They could be the same thing or they could be different. We don't really know. We come across no agents, but there must be an organisation which collected the intelligence and conducts covert missions in order to obtain intelligence and get it, and also to order other Federation forces in order to do those sort of functions. If there was an organisation which did that, there would also be agents. There must be agents somewhere. It's just we don't see them in the original series. Finally, such an organisation would have a name, but we never come across any name whatsoever apart from the unit XY blah 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 I mentioned earlier, which is unlikely to be the correct name. There is no name. Okay, with that minimal amount of information, and in order to use that information, we probably need to understand what type of organisation the Federation could possess, and then match it up with the evidence that we have. Now, in order to do that, we need to go back to the start of the United Earth, if not before. The original United Earth political structure is likely based on the UN Security Council, not the UN General Assembly. That definitely would not have been it, but the Security Council. That seems to be the way the Federation, to a large extent, is even organised. Each alliance or nation within this Security Council, and we're only talking about the big nations, but each nation within this security-like structure would have their own intelligence organisation, you would expect. The CIA for the US, KGB for the USSR, etc. When the Vulcans turned up, some level of cooperation between these different intelligence organisations would have been required, because none of those organisations, CIA, KGB, M5 or M6, was in any way, shape or form able to deal with alien nations. So they must have got together and done something. The CIA and KGB, probably the major intelligence agencies, would have created some form of hybrid organisation in order to assemble intelligence about alien races, initially about the Vulcans. It made no sense for the USSR to spy on the Vulcans separately from that of the US. Some sort of cooperative action would have almost certainly been required. Most nations, and when I talk about this, you can even go back to the Romans, or even probably before, but the Romans, we have some good solid evidence of this, but most nations have 4 general types of intelligence organisation divided into 2 internal and 2 external. To get a clear description of what I mean, let's go back to World War II. Now, the OSS was an intelligence gathering organisation, and the SOE was an organisation which supported partisans and conducted covert operations. Both these intelligence organisations would have been classed as what I would consider external intelligence organisations, which means they do most of their work either against or in other nations' territories. Most nations also have internal organisations such as the FBI in the US, which has a quasi-intelligence gathering function. I'm not going to deal with the internal organisation too much, but there must also be two of them, one to gather information and one to do possibly covert operations within your own country or nation. But anyway, let's put that to one side for the moment. If we swing back to our external organisation, the Federation must have had an external intelligence gathering organisation and also an organisation which performed active espionage or covert activities such as assassinations or supporting resistance movements. The only real question is how large or powerful are these organisations? They must exist, they have to exist, we've got some minimal evidence of it. Let's just now determine how large and powerful these organisations are. Unfortunately, the answer is I don't really have any idea. But we could ask ourselves two interesting questions which may help us work out an answer. Why is there so little known about these organisations in the original series and animated series scripts? Why is the Enterprise performing a lot of the field work of these seeming organisations? In many cases, the Enterprise is actually ordered by some organisation to perform these covert operations or intelligence gathering operations. We do know the Federation must have an intelligence organisation. All political systems must have some form of intelligence service. The only difference, or the only question is obviously its size, professionalism and effectiveness. So why do we not know the name of the Federation Intelligence Service? Why is it we never come across agents in the original series or the animated series? This is actually an absence of evidence which kind of makes us think that this represents evidence in itself. Of course, one explanation is that it's assumed. We see a lot of Klingon intelligence covert actions in the original series, from agents disguised as humans or other aliens to interfere on other worlds for their own gains. We have evidence of Klingons and even Orion agents. We see them in episodes. Yet while we have seen alien agents, we know their organisations, we have no actual names of those organisations. In the Next Generation, as name is provided for some of these organisations, such as the Klingon, not the Klingon, the Romulan organisation, but this is never mentioned in the original series. Perhaps the writers assumed we know all races have agents and intelligence service. After all, we are in the 1960s and we are in the middle of a pretty big Cold War. If we don't have the name of the Klingon, Orion or Romulan secret service or agency, why should we have a name for the human or Federation organisation? It's assumed to be there. As for the lack of Federation agents, we are on a military vessel, so why would the CIA have agents placed on a current-day nuclear-powered submarine? So it's possible we have seen no Federation agents because that's not where they would normally be. The only minor issue with this theory is that there's never actually been any mention of agents, that's Federation agents, by the crew of the Enterprise. Certainly agents of the Klingons and agents of the Orions, but not of the Federation. The information about the new and updated Romulan cloaking device had to come from somewhere. Agents in Romulan space is the logical explanation. The Klingons and even Romulans have mentioned human spies, yet Kirk and the crew seems to avoid the topic at all costs, and even deny, well, seemingly or indirectly deny the even existence of Federation spies. I mean, the simplest explanation is that it's assumed. So why need to explain what everyone knows about anyway? Everyone has their own equivalent of the KGB, and let's just move on. But what if this explanation was not correct? What if this was not the case? Why the lack of mention of Federation agency names and agents, etc.? Let's now look at the second interesting question. Why is Kirk and his crew, or the crew of the Enterprise, involved in covert actions or intelligence gathering activities? It almost seems like that if there's any intelligence work that can be done by traditional Federation organisations, that's what tends to occur in the Federation. The Enterprise is involved in secret diplomatic missions, supplying weapons to a friendly faction on the planet, interfering in the internal political struggles of alien planets, and so on. the sort of activity you would expect the CIA to be involved with, or the KGB. If you want to keep a secret organisation secret, when it does its thing, you need to provide a plausible explanation why that thing was done without mentioning the secret organisation. So the Romulans don't suspect the Federation as a secret intelligence organisation because it's always traditional military staff which performs the covert actions. They would need to assume the Federation obtained the secret information which initiated by luck, perhaps, or chance, or by accident. Maybe that's the way it looks like on the Romulan side. Whether or not they would believe it is another question. This is a weak explanation, but the Romulans would always be wondering, do the humans actually have a secret intelligence organisation, or are they just lucky? Very, very lucky. I mean, I would assume the Romulans would generally assume there was an organisation, but they would always be left wondering, and that could impede their ability to counter the Federation intelligence organisation. So, it's very unlikely you would ever fool the Romulans or Klingons. They would know the humans must have their own equivalent intelligence organisation. That's why they keep on saying there are Federation spies everywhere. But they always would be wondering, and that would make it harder to counter. So the real question is, why would the Federation keep it so secret, even from their own citizens? The benefit of keeping it secret, or the name secret, from the Romulans and Klingons may exist, but it would be a fairly minor benefit, and maybe it would have some disadvantages. Now we come to the reason why these two questions need to be answered. If the Federation Intelligence Organisation were human-centric, then knowledge of these organisations may cause some issues with the alien members of the Federation. I have no doubt the Andorians would have their own intelligence organisation, so they may expect the humans to as well. The only difference is the human intelligence agency is part of the Federation, and the Andorian organisation is only part of the Andorian state. The best conclusion is the Federation keeps these organisations very well hidden and attempts to do so as much public fieldwork using Federation military forces as possible, because this keeps these organisations out of the view of the public, specifically the alien public within the Federation. The Federation could even deny they exist internally, and all espionage is done by regular military on an ad hoc manner. As alluded to about Section 31, this organisation would need to be one of the best kept secrets possible in order to function the way it functions. The result of all this is, while everyone knows the Romulans, Klingons, and perhaps even the Vulcans have their own intelligence organisation, almost no one knows the Federation has one as well, or at least no one can be certain that the Federation has one as well. It's obvious the Federation would, but the organisation is so secret they are never seen. All their actions are performed by Federation military units, and so on. The most effective secret organisation is one which no one knows exists, and the humans in the Federation must have achieved this lofty state. I mean, really, if this is the case, then the Romulans and particularly the Klingons are rank amateurs when it comes to espionage compared to the wily humans. In Deep Space Nine, we are told that Section 31 was formed when the Federation was formed, which seems rather unlikely, although it may have changed a lot when this occurred. In the Star Trek Enterprise series, Section 31 existed before the Federation was formed, which seems the most likely. Section 31 represents the active intelligence organisation, the organisation which assassinates and provides support to friendly forces. They are the SOE in World War II terms, the covert organisation. There is likely another organisation which performs the intelligence gathering, perhaps a Section 30. This would be totally invisible. This would be a totally invisible organisation which has only one job: collect information. They could then pass it on to Section 31 or the Federation military as required. However, there is no need to introduce yet another organisation. We could simply assume that Section 31 is like the CIA or KGB. It combines the functions of both types of organisations into a single structure. The roots of Section 31 would be the CIA and KGB, and maybe, British intelligence and other nations' intelligence, part of the Security Council, but mainly CIA, KGB. This organisation would have evolved after the formation of the United Earth and may well have experienced a more extensive reorganisation when the Federation was formed. But at all times this was kept hidden from everyone, especially aliens. Secrecy would have been critical. Apart from this Section 31 style intelligence organisation, we may still have more typical and open military intelligence organisations similar to the World War II Abwehr in Germany and a diplomatic intelligence organisation linked to the embassy. These would have been more open and known to everyone in and outside of the Federation, but perhaps behind the scenes their strings were still being pulled by Section 31, or at least they were being ordered by Section 31 to do things. Same thing. Apart from the speculation I've provided so far, there's little much else I can say that would not be a total guess. I mean, even a lot of the stuff I've done involves a lot of guesswork. But let's try and go through some form of timeline of the development of a possible intelligence organisation of initially United Earth and later Federation. Any interstellar-based intelligence agency would have had as its initial impetus the Vulcan First Contact. There may have been cooperation between the KGB and CIA prior to this, when the eugenics war was raging, for example, but now we need an organisation which can deal with aliens, which needs something new. At some point in time, the United Earth would have come into existence, which would be the organisation, any intelligence organisation that dealt with dealing with aliens would report up into. I have no real firm idea when this would occur, but it's likely sometime after Colonel Green's war, at the very earliest, maybe 2001, probably a bit later. While this reference does come from the animated series, I would suggest the United Earth's first conflict may well have given any intelligence organisation a real boost, as now Earth is facing real hostile aliens which are shooting at them. Prior to this, intelligence gathering may have been the primary objective, but now something a bit more active was required. Perhaps this is the true start of the Section 31 that we see in Deep Space Nine and Enterprise. That is the Section 31 which is performing covert operations. Prior to this, intelligence gathering may have been the main focus. The United Earth's next conflict, which was a much more major war of survival, would have given any intelligence organisation a massive boost, as during this world the very existence of Earth as an independent nation was under threat. The formation of the Federation is an interesting event, probably occurred about 2161 AD. I would suggest any intelligence agencies would have been heavily at work to make certain the Federation that United Earth preferred was formed. I suspect there may have been a flurry of intelligence missions occurring prior to this event, many of which could have involved assassinations, bribery and support of various political factions in different alien societies. This could make for an interesting episode or series of episodes. Anyway, just a thought. After the formation of the Federation, the activities of these very secret agencies would be total guesswork by me. Perhaps some activity in the Klingon Empire, Romulan Star Empire, and any other major nation on the Federation border would be their main focus, but I'm sure they'd also be keeping an eye out on stuff internal to the Federation as well. And so we come to an end of episode 10 of my Star Trek, the original series history speculation series of videos, in this case detailing the specifics of the intelligence agencies of the United Earth and Federation. The episode scripts can be found using the URL shown. Alle guten Dingen kommen zu einem Ende.